We've had some other people that are very, recognized automotive people in the area. They're like, how are you going to pay for this? That's a ridiculous amount of money you spent in areas that you might not see the ROI right now. But that's the whole point of this podcast is our goal was to recruit great people and then keep them, because we know our number one expense is employee turnover.
Hey everyone, welcome to Crossroad Conversations with the Lewis Brothers, where we aim to share real stories about running a successful family business while working through adversity and pouring back into our community that keeps our doors open every single day. We're your hosts, Shelby, Matt, and Taylor, and we'll be bringing you real, relevant local business advice, maybe some automotive insights that are sure to change the way you look at running a business or buying a car, and maybe even throw in a plug for you to do business with us here locally.
Okay, guys, let's get started on today's podcast. We're excited to have some of our friends that have been working with our business for years now. We like to introduce Andrew and Ashley to the podcast today. They were with DealerOMG. Guys, thanks for joining us this morning.
Guys, it is a sheer pleasure to be here.
Thanks for having us.
And if you don't mind, just tell the audience a little bit, of course, we know because y'all have helped us be wildly successful in not only the digital space, but in social media as well. But tell the audience out there just a quick recap about what DealerOMG is about and what you guys offer and how you help businesses move the needle.
That's the cool thing about being in marketing. If you guys are seeing success on your end, we can take credit. And if the dealer's having some headwinds, we can be like, well, you're not spending enough. Yeah, that seems to be like a funny relationship with the marketing department sometimes at dealerships. But we're an inch wide, mile deep with social media advertising for dealerships. That's it. Like it's taken us a while to really distill for exactly what our lane is and stick with it. And then really refine our efforts, the staff that we hire, into really being able to serve dealerships better. Okay. And so it's allowed us to really take consideration about, like Ashley, she's been with Jermaine as the marketing director for, I don't know, how many years were you with them?
I was there for 17 years.
17 years. I was going to say over 20 years, but that seemed like an exaggeration. And a lot of what we're noticing too, that every dealership's running these same couple cookie cutter ads showing inventory and price. And so if we can be a little bit more considerate about what we're saying and who we're targeting and have a little bit of creative to it and make it built for social, we're noticing that all the metrics that advertisers are looking at with click-through rate and time on site and all this stuff improves dramatically. And then what that does for us and what we're finding for our customers is that the cost per car sold goes down. Okay. That we can help be the dealership that stands out in the market when people are ready to shop.
Okay, that makes sense. And Andrew, if you don't mind telling the listeners, tell them what your role is and what you're doing with DealerOMG on a day-to-day basis.
I'm co-founder, CEO, and met my other co-founder, Keith, who does all the operations and behind the scenes stuff while we were working at Facebook in 2009 and 10, 11. Then we branched off, launched our firm where we had one car dealership, but one of the other businesses we had was Fayette Chill.
Oh, really?
Yeah, in Arkansas. We were helping them do their co-op marketing through retailers. Have you guys come across Fayette Chill much?
Yeah, they're like they're a mile out from one of our stores. We drive past them every day. So yeah, cool local company.
Awesome people, awesome mission.
Yes,
and that's kind of what turned my attention to like Fayetteville. And then like one of my neighbors is a huge mountain biker he's trying to get me to go out there with him on a trip to go do the single tracks around town. But so after we go ahead.
You're fine. I was just saying they're super cool company supporting, what Northwest Arkansas is and all the biking and hiking. And so that they kind of have the same idea and metric.
Yeah. Between you guys, them, other, people are putting Fayetteville on the map as kind of a cool sporty mecca.
Yeah, that's really cool. And so Ashley, if you don't mind, you can introduce yourself and kind of tell the audience, how you weave into all this success with DealerOMG.
Yeah. Well, my name is Ashley Kilbarger. I've been in auto for, gosh, I don't know, 18, 19 years now. I lost track. Um, I started as a dealer consultant here with DealerOMG, getting on calls with clients, hashing out strategies, helping them move the needle. And I have since moved on to a marketing role here within OMG to help, support our marketing efforts and bring more clients in so we can help more dealers sell more metal, which is the goal, right?
You bet. You bet it is. For sure. Well, guys, I think this is going to be a great collaboration today, and I think we're going to turn the script at first. I'll hand the mics over to you guys so you can kind of run the show on I think we're going to talk about recruiting and retention, especially in our industry where there's a high turnover. Isn't that the goal today?
Yeah. What stood out to me is I think you guys are up to a lot of unique things, like, and just for starters, just like the relationship that you guys have with each other. And then the podcast you guys have created. And I what kind of the impotence for what wanted me to talk to you guys about this is we're doing a lot of recruiting for a lot of our dealerships, reaching people who went to trade schools for tech jobs, sign up bonuses, salespeople, sales managers, like your specific brands that need a lot of help with recruiting. But you guys have some unique things that I feel like from what we're doing with the social advertising side would be a huge appeal, especially to younger people or older people. Can we first talk about the podcast for a second and share what your experience has been like so far?
You bet. I'll grab that first, then I'll let, just for all the audience to know, we are the Lewis brothers, and I'm Matt, and then I'll let my brother Shelby and Taylor jump in there as well. And kind of the podcast and our format and our idea there. So, and if Craig was on here, he could echo what I'm saying. We initially bought some podcast equipment a little over 4 years ago, almost 5 years ago, just a little bit pre-COVID, because we had this idea of, man, we got some cool stories. We're pretty relatable, and we're just in the people business, and we're constantly looking at processes and systems, and how can we adapt that? How can we learn from others? And at the end of the day, besides our business being successful, what can we do to try to help pour into other local or small business owners to try to help them out? And if we open up this channel of information sharing back and forth, we all can create a better workplace, and we all can be more successful in business. And then in addition, it was in Northwest Arkansas, and you hit on it a little bit earlier when we were talking before the show, is how much it's growing. The amount of people moving into Northwest Arkansas is very unique. We found that as a family business that has been here since the late 1800s and in the automotive business for over 78 years now, that, 30 or 40 years ago, everybody knew who we were. And we think that everybody would know who we are because of the social presence and the billboards and every child's sporting event T-shirt that we're on, so on and so forth. But there's plenty of people that are moving in here that they don't know that we've been here any longer than anybody else has. So a podcast seemed like a great fit to be able to get out to 650,000 people here in Northwest Arkansas to let them know who we are. And you're not just buying a vehicle, you're doing business with a company here locally that cares about the local community as well.
Yeah, it's been fun along the way of getting this podcast going. This is episode 16, and just sharing what we know and then realizing how do we help that be relatable to average and everyday people. And then if there's a person that's gone above and beyond, and how do we make that advanced for them to, like we talk about, business is business. So just how to make that make sense. And it's been fun taking stories that we know. And when you hyper focus on something, like if you put a pin on something and say, I want to work on that as a project, then you're able to hyper focus on that. So each week when we talk about something, it brings it back to our top of minds, like, that's a really good idea. And so then we get to take that and go back to 260 employees and say, hey, let's refocus on this area of communication, or let's refocus on this of training or the culture. And so that's been fun in the podcast recording and just sharing stories along the way.
Absolutely. I think Shelby and Matt kind of went over everything there, but the biggest deal has been as brothers being able to be in here and share our stories, share, any of our examples, anything growing up, but kind of being a sounding board with each other. Whenever you hear Shelby hit the nail on the head, it comes back to top of mind awareness of the situation or anything that had happened and how we can make that better. And maybe that doesn't sound right, Helen. Let's go ahead and do it this way. So whenever we talk to each other, we're not only able to share with the community, anybody in here, of what our whole vision is, but sometimes we're able to critique any of our ideas as well whenever we go back and actually watch and go over it.
I would agree. And I got to jump back in here for just a second because Taylor and Shelby both hit on this. And I think this is an important part too, that the audience gets to see when all three of us are on here talking, is that there are times when Taylor has an idea or he's spearheaded a process and Shelby and I back up and we're the support team for him. And then a different time that then Shelby's got the dream and the vision here and we bounce it off of each other and then he takes it and runs with it. Or then the same myself. And I think even if somebody's not in a family business, they can start seeing the dynamics with inside their business as you need to make sure that you're pulling out each person's skill and then supporting them. Whoever's running the company doesn't have to be the one taking the lead on everything. In fact, if you want buy-in from your team, you've got to help bring those ideas to life and then show how can you support them. So I think that's another really cool dynamic that the listeners get to see is us three working together, no matter what each of our positions are. It's, we've got a number one, somebody's taking the lead, then the other two are supporting them, and then the cheerleaders behind them, what can I do to help? And then the next week that might flip-flop, and that's okay. That helps bring life and dynamics into moving us forward in this business world.
Always exciting. Yeah. Yeah. What I was asking is have you guys seen any surprises that you've taken away from having just the podcast, like as far as your relationship or maybe who's listening to the podcast?
That's kind of two-sided, I guess, our relationship. But it's funny, like our best communication is communicating. Yeah, think about that. Like, I know that seems super basic, but our best communication is communicating. And so us talking about communicating, like we're around each other for a long time, right? And it's always as brothers, but it's no different than I'm sure you guys, even if you're not sports fanatics, but if you see Deion Sanders and his son, before every game they walk down the sidelines, and I forget which one is which, but one way he walks down is his coach. And he tells him everything that they're going to do, everything that they should accomplish. And then they get to the end zone or wherever it is, and they turn around. And then it's his dad. And he walks down. He's like, I'm proud of you. Here's what you've accomplished. So we get to do that as brothers and through it. And so that we're not aggravated, angry, or pissed off at each other, because that happens, right? Because we're all a lot alike, but different in ways, and we move in different moves. And so I think we do a pretty good job of communicating the communication of like, dadgummit, like, why'd you do that or this, that? And it's never like holler, cuss, or punch each other. We did that plenty as kids, but it's just understanding, and we communicate those things. We're like, you're good at this. You do that. Like, I suck at that. You do that, and I'll support you, and then you do that. So I would say that's, we've definitely worked on that of things that we know, but we talk about it because we have to, because we all have a podcast. So like I say, communicate the communication. Men aren't great at communication, so now we're communicating about the things you need to communicate. And surprises, Taylor, were you going to say surprises that have popped up?
Oh, no, I mean, you kind of hit everything there, but we've been really surprised of the amount of people, even in our own business, that come up to us and are like, God, that's really good. I can't believe y'all are talking about that. That's awesome. I didn't know that. That we thought they knew us pretty well with work. We're talking employees that have been there for 5-10 years that think they know all of that, but they hadn't heard any in their interest, and that's huge.
I think that is big. And I know I get stuck in this, and I think it was just the other day that I went over a subject where I covered something new, but my just the other day was 3 years ago, 5 years ago. You know what I mean? And this is one of the subjects that's top of mind awareness. We hadn't gotten into it yet, but as we bring new people into our organization, and if we look back just a little bit over a year ago, about 18 months ago, we've added an additional 100 people, as full-time staff. So when you do that, how are you instilling into them the same you instilled into somebody 5 years ago, 10 years ago, whether it be culture or the way we handle conflict resolution or the way we develop people, so on and so forth. But so there's a little bit of all that's come out of the podcast.
Do you feel like the staff is listening to the podcast, or it seems like a good weapon too to hand off to people that you're trying to hire and be like, hey, look, here's exactly who you're going to be working with. Here's
I
exactly.
would say that new talent is probably it's weird how that works, right? Like once you have something, you don't work as hard at something, and that's generally speaking.
Mm-hmm.
New talent is definitely hyper focused, and so they're paying attention. There's a good amount of current employees that are listening to it, but it's fun, especially with the titles. If someone asks about something, like someone asked me this weekend, and I was like, oh yeah, and I was able just to send it to them, like, hey, you can watch or listen to this right here from this YouTube link or from our website, and so it is becoming a tool that we can use. Like, hey, you're curious about our culture, and if you can't see us right now, you really do need to go to our website or our YouTube channel, Crossroad Conversations, and you'll see. Now, I know this comes out probably in January sometime, the beginning of January, but Christmas culture is the thing, and so and we took turns rotating through it, and I want to point this out real quickly that when we walked in the door with with the Christmas suit on or whatever it might be, and we're always moving through them, that real quickly Ashley ran and was like, I've got one of those, I want to be a part of that. And then Andrew was like, I've got a jacket that looks like Christmas. That is the power of positive influence, and that says right there 70% of communication is nonverbal. We didn't have to say a word. We walked in the door and you were like, oh gosh, I feel left out. That looks fun. I want part of that. And that's what we get to do day in and day out. And so then the podcast helps do that because we get to, it's rare that we have a spare few minutes that we get to talk about stuff. So now we have to because we chose to. Mm-hmm. And so then we can share that with employees and they get to build on that.
And it's more reflection time of, hey, here was a scenario. Let's talk through how we handled it and how we trained people to be able to deal with it in the future. Normally when we're communicating in day-to-day business, it's right in the middle of it. We're making decisions. Hey, how do we overcome this? How do we adjust here? What should we do business-wise here to make it make sense? And this is more of a reflection and a learning and teaching moment of here's what went on. Here's how we handled it. Or here's how we've handled these situations in the past. And hopefully you can learn from it.
And it feels like, just from my observation, that there's a healthy level of vulnerability that you guys bring to the table. And it's not, let me sell vehicles, let me talk about incentives, let me tell you why right now it's the urgent time, even though it is right now an urgent time to buy vehicles because there's great incentives. But here's what we've learned as business owners. Here's, some of the past that we've tried that didn't work. Here's what worked well. Here's some things that have motivated our team. Here's how we've communicated with our team. It seems like it's like, even if this podcast that you guys are doing, the Crossroads Confessions, or Crossroads Conversations, wasn't distributed at all, it seems like a healthy exercise just to sit down and have this conversation, between you guys.
Yeah, I would agree.
That brings me to
the point there is, it does. It puts that out there, allows us to communicate, to be able to unpack, and like Shelby said, even to store it away in this library of teaching moments. So then we can grab it. And if it doesn't go to anybody else except, our management team or our staff to go, oh yeah, hey, listen into this episode when all three of us were available to collaborate in one room. I mean, if you look at our training during a normal week, we got to divide and conquer. I mean, there's some meetings that we're all in, but when it comes from training and really pouring into the employees, we all do it at different levels, and we got to divide that up. So to get all three of us in the room and talk hyper-focused on one subject and get three different points of view and then be able to put that in the training library, then as Shelby said, to be able to pass it out, that's a pretty powerful tool that I don't know that we went into the podcast thinking that would be one of the golden nuggets.
No, I think it's kind of developed into that, but I think it's a whole lot of us being type A personality, wanting to grow and be the best at what we could be at. All the books we've read and all the podcasts we listen to of helping people, like, here's the idea, here's the subject we cover, here's how you break it down, here's the action plan. And I think from us learning from that, it's helped develop what our podcast looked like and how that's able to be relatable from all the things that you listen to of, okay, let's talk our business in real world and how that makes sense.
I think the focus too, and Andrew, you hit on this just slightly, but I'm going to unpack it a little bit. Is the podcast is not about, hey, the 0% interest right now, or the $15,000 off, or the $25,000 off, or should we lease, should we buy, so on and so forth. That's a byproduct. Now that's the engine that drives us to be able to do this. But if you study and if you look at the podcast out there, if you look at the people that are pouring into the business world, it is first, what value can I add to the listeners? What information can we put out there in a podcast format at no charge? And then the byproduct is hopefully they liked what they heard or what they saw, and they'll want to do business with us. Or we keep Lewis Automotive top of mind awareness, so when it is time to do business, then our ads or our post or our offers, they become a whole lot more sticky because we've added value into people's lives. And the only way we got that, we didn't dream that up, is we study people nonstop. We're not the smartest people out there, but we're smart enough to know to go find smart people and read a book or listen to a podcast or look at trends and go, how can we duplicate that?
Yeah, you think about like Red Bull marketing, you go to their social page, they ain't selling a can anywhere on there. You know what I mean?
Yep.
But something's going to grab somebody's attention, whether it be entertainment or information, or just like it's easy to watch and easy to pay attention to. So we've learned a whole lot of that from other people that have studied a whole lot of time and have really smart people. So no, we're not trying to sell a truck through the microphone.
But we do have them for sale if you're looking for help.
Yeah, and what you guys were talking about, with getting the podcast out, you guys are investing in like things that are unique, things that are modern. And what I love about this is that it's like making the automotive industry a much more attractive, relatable place for people to not only find a job, but to really pursue, to really want to work in this industry, because it has neat things going on, and it has tons of humans on the insides, and it has, some perks. And it sounds like you guys have done a lot at the stores to really retrofit the stores to meet the needs of maybe like some talent that you guys would have trouble recruiting if you didn't have these things. Can you talk a little bit about what you guys have built out in the stores?
You bet. I mean, we'd have to, I'll get started here and then y'all take over. I'm going to rewind the tape a little bit on you here, Andrew, is that we built all new facilities. So it was a pretty cool opportunity where we had a clean slate. And the last time we built was in 1969, when our grandfather moved the dealerships. And of course, we updated from then. But we had a completely clean slate. And we didn't just wake up one day and say, this is the place. It was 10 years of planning. And it was 100, it was actually more than 100, but we just use the word 100. It was 100 in-person, tours of facilities. And I didn't say automotive facilities that we looked at employee-focused first, then for a great customer experience. But if we focus on the employees first, and if we build into the infrastructure some of the processes and systems we want in place so we can take average people and make them great, that was our hyper focus. It wasn't the colors and the oohs and the ahs. It was how do we build into the infrastructure of these buildings a great place for employees to come work and thrive, and then a great experience from a customer standpoint. And all the things that frustrated us in the past on processes trying to get put in place by employees, if we built it into the actual building where they had to do it, then you baked it in there for no matter how long somebody's been there. And I'll let you guys take it from there.
Yeah, so, from the basics of all of our facility, shop included, is climate controlled. So heated and cooled. So it's a big deal there to get our technicians in the air conditioning and proper climate controlled. Every customer gets a car wash, and that's something fun that we get to do. Every person that comes through, and we offer it to customers like with no service, just come on through, we'll clean your car up. But also that's fun of doing employee car wash days. So we'll go out there and do a blitz and go take their keys from them and go wash their cars, of just like, we know a clean car generally makes a person more happy, right? Especially if it comes for free 99. So that was something fun to build in there. Every single one of our stores has a second story flex space, what we call it. It's a break room for employees that has a balcony. And so it has a great view over Fayetteville, but it's on the second story for a very important reason, that a customer cannot access it easily. They could get there, but very easily to distract them. Or when it's their break time in a flex space, that was kind of a non-automotive, but a Google style or an Apple style. Like, we've got bean bags, and whether you're out on the balcony or just a bunch of different chair styles that you can hang out, that you could have some you time while at work that was approved by us, away from the customer. And so that was some things that we learned along through the way. And then we just built crazy facilities, and Taylor, you can kind of go from there.
Mm-hmm. And I'm gonna dive into really the biggest deal that came from looking at 100 different businesses is the functionality and flow.
Yes.
Everyone built all of these stores. We saw that there was not any that had X, Y, and Z that all came together. It was on your busiest day, can all the customers be here and the flow still come in?
Sure.
Whenever you come in, Matt's favorite thing, whenever he would tell us, don't say anything else, we would pull into a store and he'd say, where do you go for X? Where do you go for parts? Where do you go for service? And we would have to figure out at any of these stores. So we really detailed in the flow, which really transitions to all the employees that they love it, because then the customers know where to go. It provides a better experience. They know where to go. They're comfortable with the whole process. So that was really all exterior that we worked on. And, I'll kind of throw it back to y'all because you spearheaded this, but there's another really big thing we did that was a huge employee retention.
It is. And I'm going to go, Andrew, if you're okay with this, I'm just going to go rapid fire around the room real quick, and each of us can grab one subject and we'll keep going just to kind of give you a quick highlight of some of the stuff. I'm going to start off on the structure of the store, and then each one of us grab one and we'll keep going around the room. Our stores, we took this page out of Walmart's book. Our stores are identical. So when you walk into them, the colors might look different, but where you go is the same. And a super center is that way. If you go to one in Arkansas or in Florida or in Chicago, it might be flip-flop which side of the store the groceries are on, but you got a good sense of where to go. And when customers feel comfortable, they'll do more business with you. So we made it, if they bought an F-150 and they bought a Jeep Wrangler, when they pull into service, it's familiar. It's the same. That's from the customer standpoint. From the employee standpoint, if we got to grab an employee to go from one building to the other building because somebody's on vacation or they're sick, they know what to do. They know where everything's located. The desks are the same. The layout's the same. The flow's the same. The brand might be different, but the actual experience and the flow that we do from dealership to dealership is the same, and people will see that. So that was one of the things we took away.
Yeah, so we definitely had the flow to make sure the things, whether it was the in-store delivery bays, that were next to the finance departments, that allowed a better experience for delivery, from the delivery employees. So when you bought your car, it was a better experience that you got all the details. It was also better for the customer because it was inside in a climate-controlled area that you could see from finance. The flow from the sales process to the finance bay to the delivery bay was something that we learned from a store in Vegas, and then another store that we saw in Texas. And so those things, there was just a lot of with intention to, but I heard you specifically asked. And so huge gorilla in the room that we constantly point out to people is our employee gym. Mm-hmm. We built in our pre-owned facility, which is one of our, kind of our crown jewels. We got to design and build the entire thing. Anytime that we traveled to these 100 different stores, or whether it be on vacation or a dealer meeting or a 20 group, every time we'd go somewhere, we'd measure stuff and take pictures. And we got some weird looks taking pictures in gyms. And it wasn't because we were social influencers. Because as much as we are on social media, we're generally not that much on social media. But it was measurements. I remember being on a cruise ship and measuring how close each one of the treadmills were, and got back and I told Matt, like, we can be a whole lot closer on the treadmill. So it's something like 1,600 square feet ish, give or take a couple feet. But it's on the second story, because what I learned from like the Bellagio or a couple bigger, nicer hotels is, okay, let's build a gym, but don't put it in the basement looking at the shrubs. So it's on the second story. It has one of the most prime pieces of real estate. It's floor-to-ceiling glass on 3 of the 4 sides. It overlooks our entire parking lot. Over the sunrise is right in front of you, and it is crammed full. There's not another piece of real estate, whether it be the wall or the floor, of equipment that we could fit in there.
Exactly.
And it's built in, that has a built-in sauna, a cold plunge. It has all the weights you could ever imagine, a whole cycling studio, a yoga studio. It's pretty amazing.
It is. It's huge, amazing. And it's more people we've seen than we would think have really taken advantage of it, of being there. It's, you got your morning and your late crew, but then groups of people that go over there. So they're like, hey, we want to leave here. And so they're continuing building that camaraderie with the whole team of, hey, I'm going to go over, we're going to work out in the morning. Think about just starting with your team of, hey, we're going to hit a Saturday morning before getting ready for your sales meeting or anything else or for the day. It's such a positive mindset and sets up your whole team so they're already charged before you go to charge them. So whenever you hit that next level, it takes them even farther.
You bet it does. Okay, I'm going back to the infrastructure and the processes. So our service departments, we got this out of a Jeep store in Tulsa, Oklahoma, that when we pulled in there, like Taylor said, we'd pull into every place. I was like, don't tell me about the colors. Don't tell me about the oohs, the ahs. Tell me how to get to X. And one of our big ones was service, because we know that people will come to the service department about 3 times a year. They'll buy a car about every 3 years. That's a 9-to-1 ratio on service over sales. If we do a great job with them in service, we got an 80% chance more likely to sell them the next car. Okay, there's the facts behind it. So what we did with our service department, we made it the easiest thing to get to. When you pull into our dealership, there's only one entrance, by the way, too. We'll talk about that in a little bit. But when you pull in, you either pick left or right, you make 0 turns, and it dumps you straight into the service drive. There is no service parking out front.
That's
0. There's 0. And most people, that blows their mind. Why? Because we want them to pull through the service drive. If we pull through the service drive, we've started the process correctly without anybody having to find a place to park, without an employee to go out there and meet them. So our service drives are really big. They're a 3x3, meaning they're 3 wide and they can fit 3 cars in each lane. So it'll fit 9 cars inside and the 9 cars at least outside. And it's a 2 in, 1 out. When they pull into service, and if we were looking at our service facility right now, they pull in, the doors open up. It's really nice finished concrete floor. And there's a glass wall where we put 6 advisors facing the service drive. So if you can imagine this, somebody pulls in, because this is their only place to park, okay? There's a glass wall, and we made the desk where they're staring right out at the service drive. So it's like, here's the customer, here's the employee, go take action. And it's right there. So that's one of the areas where we equaled a great customer experience and employee engagement with a customer by building into the actual infrastructure.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's, there's 100 different aspects that we built that into that to make sure that it all flowed, that it was 1, good for the employee, and 2, it was good for the customer experience. Because we knew if we could appease both those things and build it into the process, that it would generally help turnover. It would generally help, keeping turnover low, whether that be an employee or a customer, and keep people coming back around.
A couple small things you did, though, in the waiting room we'll just talk about, whether the sparkling water or the cappuccino stuff. So talk to them about how we elevated that.
So the waiting room is built in to the middle of the store, so that whether it be a sales customer or a service customer, there were no turns to get there. It was straight, dead centered. Each waiting room has a 85 or 98-inch TV. And there's multiple different TVs, and there's as Matt was talking about, a refreshment bar. So I found this in a hotel in Vail, Colorado, this huge sparkling water machine, and it was it stood out to be different. I love sparkling water, but it stood out to be different, that it wasn't your normal Coke machine, and we have plenty of those. So that's something complimentary for the customers. And then this whiz bang coffee machine that, depending on how much extra stuff you want to put on there, it's pre-programmed in there, and you can get a double espresso macchiato, or you can get a vanilla latte or hot chocolate, which is a popular item right now. And so that's in each one of the stores, and it just makes a good experience. And so then built into that customer waiting lounge, there's kind of 3 phases. The one that's closest to the sales, and then there's a center one with big lounger chairs, and then a back one that has another TV. And then there's 2 in each service drives, or in service areas, a 4-foot by probably 8-foot tall window, floor to ceiling window. And so you can see into the service department, and service department can see into the customer waiting area. And it just made it a super transparent experience on both sides. Kept the shop clean, kept the guys working hard, but also allowed the customer to have good confidence that their vehicle was getting worked on. And so that whole experience there of where to sit, that it was comfy, on Fridays and Saturdays we'll make popcorn, and just you're kind of in the middle of all the entertainment. And as a sales customer, you can hang out there, and the finances just directly there with no turns. That it was just a good waiting area. And it's the same in the Ford and the CGR, and as the pre-owned as well, that it's all right there, centrally located with all the amenities.
That's right. But like the windows you talk about, that came from the restaurant industry.
Yep.
If you've ever been to a restaurant where you could see where the chef was preparing the stuff, we took that out of we didn't say that automotive. That came out of the restaurant industry. And then as you look into the shop, tell them about what we took out of the Las Vegas Ford store.
So this was something we saw in the Vegas store, then kind of threw back to like championship flags. So if you go to a basketball arena, you see all these championship flags of like the Razorbacks in 1994 won national championship. So this Vegas store had some hanging there. Yeah. Had some hanging there. I was like, hey, what are those? And she said, oh, Ford has this top text program. They make these banners, da-da-da. And so within our stores, and I think we have 10 of them now in our Ford store, that I was able to go online and make this digital format. So it has our branding, it has Ford's branding, and their brand of level of certification. Master certified, senior master certified, 10-year, 20-year, whatever it was. And so it has their name and their level of certification, like their achievements and championships. And so I put those centered down the middle of the service drive, so the customers, when they look out, they can see those. And then the technicians, as they're hanging out, they get to see, oh yeah, that's me. That's why I show up early. That's why I work hard. That's why I get paid what I get paid. That's why I have this difficult job or this difficult thing. And so that was a cool thing to celebrate them. And then as they achieve a new level, we'll get a new banner. And then we went ahead and got a separate banner. This was kind of as we went, it was like, let's get them a banner so then they can take home and put in their garage or in their workshop or their toolbox. And it allowed them to have some ownership within that. And it was just a cool thing that we saw, that some of them are really tore up about it, just super excited. Like, man, I can't believe you did that. And it was not expensive. Sorry if that's a spoiler alert. It was just the effort that it took. I wouldn't like Canva found a design and this, that, and the other, but it has great value and confidence to the customer. Like, oh yeah, those are the guys. There's 20-year senior master certified technician. That's why I came to this place. And the technician was like, oh yeah, that's why I'm not going somewhere else.
You've got to be able to hit this other though, because you went through the whole waiting area, you went through everything else. And we have customers that talk about this. We also have employees that love it. So outside of our waiting area in the middle is a kids room in every single building. Well, we took this probably from like the pediatric, you go in there, but all the walls are wrapped. And so there's all sorts of animals and characters and everything else, but that's in every single building. So not only can the parents sit in the middle and watch that, the kids can play there. There's arcade games, wall games, everything else. That's in all 3 stores. Well, if you back up into the showroom, we only had our footprint that we could do X, Y, and Z that was code for what the manufacturer was saying. We had a lot of fun with the local artists, and Shelby kind of really dove into this, but we had a rat company put this up, but of Old Main and the Lake Fayetteville and a popular hiking spot. So when people walk in that are from our area, they're like, oh man, that's so awesome. Yeah. So that's really cool in our showroom.
It's super relatable. And that was one of the things we had to kind of navigate through: approval through manufacturer, approval through city. Oh yeah, now bring it in and put it up. And so they're big, like 15 by 20 foot wall wraps. And then the kids area, That's a good. There's a lot of things, and if we're not walking you through the tour, it's hard to remember all of them. But it's so much more than, we say every new McDonald's has to have the McDonald's franchise look, and so we crowded across all those T's, dotted all those I's, and then we said, how can we be different?
Right.
So there's a lot of that built in.
So then I'll go into the let's go into the meeting rooms here. So the meeting rooms at each of the dealerships, they've got more of an open format, and upstairs they'll hold about 40 or 50 people that we could have some smaller department meetings, but they're also open. There's no doors on them. There's no walls. Like, you could walk through. It's a very inviting space that people can also use for a break room. Full-blown break room upstairs with a food vending machine and the Coke stuff and the double microwaves and the ice makers. It was the small things. You guys ask about this, and I wasn't going to pause here, but I'm going to. Dual microwaves were a huge thing. To me, it wasn't, because I might eat lunch at 10:30 in the morning or at 4 o'clock in the afternoon, or I might not eat lunch at all, depending upon, if you're an entrepreneur, you're just getting after it. But for my guys that were on lunch between 12 and 1, it was a big deal to them to have to wait in line to use the microwave. And I'm scratching my head. I'm like, are you kidding me? Like, $200 is what I need to spend to have a better employee experience? We said, if we got to put 50 of these in, let's put enough microwaves so everybody doesn't have to wait in line.
I think we have 15 microwaves on campus.
We have 15 total microwaves. Okay. And then ice makers were a big deal to those. Could I have ice for X, Y, and Z? So every store has at least 2 ice makers in it. I don't know what the count is on that.
Yeah.
But it's big. So it was those small things. It's not this big deal. So then you go to our conference room in the 3-story black building. And we're really proud about this one, because we tell everybody, like, you can come to one of our meetings and you could bring your family members. You could bring your grandparents if you wanted to. We don't yell. We don't cuss. We don't throw things, and we don't threaten. Do we get wound up? Absolutely. Do we talk about KPIs and responsibilities and how people need to hit their goals? Absolutely. Are you going to feel bad if you didn't hit your goal and you got to announce it in there? Mm-hmm. Probably so, but we're not going to belittle, and we're not going to threaten you. So our conference room in our main building, it'll hold a little bit over 100 people, but it is full-blown AV. And it's full-blown AV designed by the 3 people in this room, okay? From a little bit of YouTube knowledge and a little bit of just throughout the years of the boombox to.
So what you're saying is it's like an AC/DC concept.
It's pretty close. It's over 30 watts RMS. It's got 6 18-inch subwoofers.
It just hit you with RMS. The lady that he was ordering speakers from said, "Oh, sir, what concert venue are you setting up? This is for my."
Pretty intense, and
that's a good response.
Yeah.
Yes.
It's got fog machines. It's got laser light shows.
Sorry for calling the fire department 2 times already.
Fire departments have been there.
Fog.
So when you walk into one,
you guys have a fog machine in there? I think, was it Taylor that was talking about putting fog machine in the races and things like that?
Multiple fog machines. So that from the races, that's from our main conference room.
Yes.
And then, like, the lights, we went overboard and really, like, all the lights and all the programming, like, it could get you, but hey. And then, like, we just keep going more and more. Our front projector screen is 120 inches that powers down out of the ceiling.
That wasn't enough
for the presentation. So then we put a big, Matt loves whiteboards, but it's a digital whiteboard. So it's a big 85-inch digital whiteboard, smart board that projects the same message, but you can say, hang on, let me get on these metrics and start circling and moving stuff. And it's tied into the presentation. And then halfway through, if people sit in the back because the music is too loud, but then they can't see, there's a couple more, 55 or 60 inch TVs that have the same message or can have a separate message. So sound, visual, light, whatever it is full. There's not a person leaving there with not a smile on their face or an excitement, and they could have come in with a dead battery, but they're fully charged with it.
Absolutely. And I think that's the goal is we want to put people in a culture and an atmosphere where they can thrive. No matter what's going on with their life, no matter what happened to them that morning, we want to give them the tools and the atmosphere to be successful. And one of that is, with our meeting rooms, and what does that look like and what does the environment look like? So I guess to kind of land the plane on all that is there's hundreds more we could talk about, but Andrew, you brought it up of like, what did we do to cultivate this culture in an area where people would want to work and customers would want to do business? And as much as we could, we built into the actual structure of the buildings.
Because it's culture. Like, it's tough to define what culture is and what drives culture too. Because when we first started, we had our office, and I was like, okay, we need a foosball table. That's going to be our, we'll have a culture there, and we need to get beer in the fridge, even though probably we're not going to ever drink it, but we need to, to have these amenities. And it's like, it becomes obvious quickly, like the culture starts with just like caring about people and what's their spouse's name, and that their grandma's got an operation coming up in a week and might need some time off. But then as you scale, it's like the considerations that you guys have taken into account. And it sounds like you've got some attention. Have other dealers come by and taken a look at the stores and taking a look at the facilities?
It's one of those things that your local competitors, you're like, do I want to give them a tour? But at the end of the day, you cannot just have the idea.
Correct.
Because the idea, we've stolen from everyone else, but there was not one other store that had everything that we have, I can assure you. So now we flip the script. And so both of our neighbors, we have invited in and given a full behind the scenes of how it works. And they're just like,
they're just blown away.
Yeah, they're blown away. Like, one, how you can pay for this? And two, they're like, this is ridiculous. Like, I don't know why I still have any employees. I said, well, it's because your entire staff hadn't come and toured this yet. Bring them over. Let's go. But yeah,
I feel like has it made a big impact on recruiting?
Yeah.
And I wanted to point that out. So our second story where our gym is and our conference room is right below that. Our HR director does a really good job. He has some videos of certain different things, whether it be our commercials to introduce who we are, and that we're real people and we really do care. But he has a very specific, him and his team have a very specific route in their tour, and he knows when certain meetings are.
Oh, yeah.
And so he'll kind of come up with a recruitment team. And I don't mean that by our employees. I mean it by people who want to work there. So he'll schedule them for X time. And so then he'll run them through the gym, and they're like, huh? Just like right off the get-go, like, you have a sauna and a cold plunge. What? Am I at a health club or what? And then he'll bring them down through the sales meeting, and they won't sit there the whole thing, but they'll hear the 30,000 watts and the lights and be like, okay. And then they start taking them through all the other areas. And so thank the Lord, we have not struggled to have applicants of people who want to work at our business. We've had a little change. And then the people that do work there find their area that they like. Not everyone likes all the parts and pieces, but the culture, and Matt talked about it with 100+ new employees. Like, Christmas time came around and it was like, hey, everybody get their suits. And some people had only been there since knew Lewis, So like, what do you mean? I was like, let me show you. Here's what we're going to do. And then they just plug in, they feel welcome. And then the customers just have a smile because they know you care about the employees, and the employees then care about the customers. And then it's just, it's a long-term culture that people love to be a part of.
Hey, Andrew, I think to answer one of your questions, though, you've got to flip your mindset a little bit. And we haven't always thought this way. But I probably got part of this mindset from listening to people put free content out there, either podcast or blog wise, on leadership, on sales skills, on this and that. You would think about, like, why is somebody putting that out there at no charge that they could grab that information and use it? Same thing. Why would we show other dealers through our building of these amazing things that took us 10 years and 100+ visits to put in? Well, here's reality, is very few people are going to actually put that stuff in place. I mean, there's a lot of how-to books out there, but very few people that actually put the how-to in place. And so we kind of flipped it, going, one, when we walk people through here, they're going to be like, how do I even put that in place? Or like Shelby said, we've had some other people that are very, recognized automotive people in the area. They're like, how are you going to pay for this? That's a ridiculous amount of money you spent in areas that you might not see the ROI right now. But that's the whole point of this podcast, is our goal was to recruit great people and then keep them. Because we know our number one expense is employee turnover. So how can we invest? Because we're in a long-term game here. We've been in the business for 78 years. We can sell the store today if we wanted to, but we don't. It's about how can we get it to the 5th, to the 6th generation and have employees for long-term.
I feel like that's exactly what you guys have done, is set up success in a long-term strategy for success with the group. Because tell me if I'm wrong, but we're in such an industry that is constantly hitting reset every month, and we've got goals, we've got inventory, we've got incentives, we've got all these issues that are really immediate, and they need to be addressed quickly. And now we have a great Bronco incentive to conquest Jeep. We've got Tesla conquest with the Lightning and the Mach-E, all these things that are coming across your desk. But to be able to stop and think a decade down the road, no, it seems unique for the auto industry, and it seems like set up for success for whoever, your grandkids, when they come into this. They're going to hear the podcast of how you guys communicated and worked with each other, all the way to the facilities. Do you feel like it's making a big impact at all on just like the turnover of employees and the morale?
I think so. I think it's added to it. Yeah, I think that we've never had a huge issue with morale and with culture. We've just now expanded it. So we've worked a long time. I've been back in the business now for a little over 20 years, and Taylor and Shelby not far behind that. So collectively, we've slowly weeded out anything that might have snuck in and created this culture. So really the question was, how do we create a great culture, is how do we expand that to a larger footprint?
And that's been hard with bringing new people on. I just had this meeting with managers the other day of, hey, we do need more people. Thank you for bringing more people on the team, but you have to create that core group that knows what route you're going, because as you bring more people on, this just happens. You'll bring people that are not your same style of anything you're wanting to be, of your culture. And if you don't address that quickly, it will definitely mess up your whole culture. So that's been really where we've had to dive in and say, hey, got to get that out, bring somebody else in. Yes, thank you for joining and building the team, but you've got to be able to address that quickly.
You can go from being the majority to the minority pretty quickly, like so quickly. So if you take everyone's average demeanor, everyone's average respectfulness, everyone's average, all the things that we do that make a good business, and if you don't create, build, and train constantly your culture, it will become a new culture, or it may become a new way of how we handle our new way we do things, because you didn't overly manage and train each part and piece that got in. If everybody hops into a tub that's 70 degrees and you've always had it warmer and warmer and warmer, but then people keep getting out and you just have 3 or 4 people that are keeping it at 70 degrees, but everyone else jumps in with a bag of ice and you don't realize it, it completely will change the temperature or the culture of the thing. So that's a constant thing that we have, Taylor was talking about, that you have to constantly pay attention and give direction to that. Otherwise, it'll change overnight and you'll be working on a whole nother project. We'll be working on podcast and then look up and like, what happened?
Yeah. But I think it's an anomaly in our business to be able to think that way, because we're a last minute, on fire, highly competitive business. And that starts all the way from the manufacturers. Is we got to get all of our marketing ready, but we got a good idea what it'll be on, but we don't even know what the incentives or what the manufacturer is going to push till the 2nd, the 3rd, the 4th, the 5th day of the month. And we got to turn all that over. You guys know this, but we got to turn all that over rapidly and get it out there then to generate some business. So for us to be able to step back and go, let's juggle what's going on right here, right now to keep business going, yet put some mid and some long-term vision and goals into place, that's come from us being able to step away at meetings, at 20 groups, at round tables, or just the 3 of us talking, going, okay, we got to shut the door for a second, and we got to think about what else is on the horizon.
Have you guys used like consultants to come in to help facilitate those conversations, or like done EOS or any methodology of meetings?
We have not, but it's funny you bring that up because we've discussed that, especially over this past year, not only because of the culture, but more on the scale side. We've got 78 years worth of being successful at the level we are, but we've now opened some new chapters. We were from 140, 150 people that were 260, will be over 300 by the end of next year and beyond. So we are going to have to learn from some new experts and some consultants like you're talking about. And I think that's important, is always be allowing to learn from others that are more successful or that have been there where you haven't been.
And that's a thing where we definitely learned to hire up.
Yeah.
We did that with our HR director. We did that with our some of our office team. We've done that in very crucial areas.
Our marketing guy.
Our marketing in crucial key areas, not that we didn't have understanding of that, but it was like, let's bring someone in that's hyper-focused. Our HR director was over Walmart and was a store manager in Walmart, was an HR director of part of Walmart. It was like, this person has really good knowledge, and it's no longer do we need to be trying to help the HR person figure out how to handle each and every different HR complaint or how to handle this workman's comp. Like, let's hire that person. And so we haven't had the specific consultant to go over the whole thing, but we've learned to hire those specific people that can then say, give me that. That's my department. Let me handle it. And you go back to what you're good at.
And that was a change of mindset, though, because we had always hyper-focused on growing people from within because of the culture it creates. We know their habits. We can ingrain, our vision and our ethics into them. But we learn, like Shelby said, from studying some of the larger companies, is you've got to hire some talent. You've got to hire some people that have been to different levels that you haven't been to and support those. And that came, our HR director is a prime example of that. Our controller right now, she comes with expertise of working with 20 plus rooftop auto groups, but was intrigued with the family style. We're hearing that of people that have the experience, but they're like, if I could just go back to a little bit more of that family feel of like where they care about you. Our marketing director right now, which y'all know, he's got tons of experience that he went and got out from working with hundreds of other dealers from, and we were able to bring him back on board as well to give us some new vision and some new outlook on how at a larger scale you would do these things. So those are just 3 examples of how we're bringing in additional talent to help us go to a larger platform.
No, just curious, like if you guys have any advice to a dealer that could be listening that is about to overhaul their facilities, like where to start or what mindset to have.
So, do it. So most importantly, do it. Like I will tell you, and we've seen that within, in the Memphis region for our 4 dealers, there's 224 dealers in the Memphis region. In the top 10 of that, top 10 performers in sales last month, 6 of them are in Arkansas, and I would say 4 of them have new facilities. So people follow new, and I'm not saying always look for the new thing, but also surround yourself with people that have already done that, right? I always say this, and I learned this from someone, there's 2 ways to learn something. One, experience it, and that was us in 10 years of research. But we also, in that 10 years in those 100 different stores, we asked people. And so the number one question is like, hey, if you rebuilt this store, what would it look like? Hey, if you did this again, what would you look like? What would you change? What would you do twice as much as? And what would you not have done? And so find someone else that's done it and learn from them. Save yourself the 10 years of heartache or wrong decisions or wrong spending, but most certainly do it.
My biggest piece of advice there, and I'll expand on Shelby said, do it, which I agree with, but I highly encourage everybody, do not take the plans that the manufacturer gives you and just build it. If we heard that once, we heard it 100 times. And go out and do your research. Take the time. Everybody opened their stores and their facilities and just gave us the information. Put together what you're looking for. I'm telling you, manufacturers are great at manufacturing vehicles, but that's why they have the dealers, because they are the piece in between dealing with a customer and those experiences. So don't just take one set of plans. We had to buy the set of plans from Ford. We had to buy the set of plans from CDJR. And then, and I'm sorry if anybody's listening, but I'm not. We threw them in the trash. They were the biggest waste of money we spent, but we had to. That was part of it. But take the time to ask questions and verify before you just fire off.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think that goes with the family-owned, family-operated vibe that you guys have too. It's that your staff, how long they've been there. You've got multi-generational people that have been probably working with you guys, and you understand your service department, you understand the inventory, the manufacturer, the market, and to be able to have that kind of compiled together and take pieces from Walmart, McDonald's, restaurants, and places outside the industry and put it together to make it a unique solution is interesting. It's certainly interesting and something that it makes me really excited about the future of this industry as a whole. So, guys, thank you. And again, like I feel like I did a lousy job of introducing you guys with the podcast, Crossroad Conversations, and Lewis Automotive out of Fayetteville, Arkansas. You guys are doing some unique things. And is there a way that people can get in touch with you or follow you?
Yeah, you bet. On any of the socials, you'll find us, Lewis Automotive Group or Lewis Ford or Lewis CDJR. You can find our website at lewissuperstore.com. The podcast is Crossroad Conversations with the Lewis Brothers. We're on Spotify, Apple, on website. So any of that stuff you can follow us on. You can shoot us a message if you're interested in being on the show, or if there's subjects you want us to cover, or if you're in town, we'd love to give you the full tour and the behind the scenes stuff. And we'll help any business owner out, no matter what they're in, to try to pour what we've learned, into others.
Absolutely.
Yeah, well, you guys are winning. Now we just need to get the Razorbacks up to prominence again, and Fayetteville will be the mecca.
We're in a restructuring year.
How long have we been there?
A long time. We're still working on it. It's a long-term thing.
Basketball's looking good.
Yeah.
We got
basketball.
Yeah. Well, guys, thanks for having us on. It's been fun and just volleying back and forth. You just on growth and on the automotive industry, and we sure do appreciate you guys' partnership. Just for a plug for you guys, we've been working with y'all for a lot of years now. That y'all have helped us grow, especially in the social space in the digital world, how to navigate. What's very fast paced and changing on every day.
Yeah, I guess my ideas too from the conversation, just like if it's recruiting techs, let's feature some of the techs that have been there for 20 years in a video, and then we can go target techs from other dealerships and people that went to trade schools. So, yeah, man, you guys have a lot of cool assets on your side.
Well, thanks. It's glad to see it's paying off, right? We just keep our head down and stay after it.
That's right. That's right.
Hey, if you enjoyed this episode, be sure to give it a like, share it with your friends and family, even visit our website, send us the questions about what you want to know, what you want to hear, tell us about the automotive industry, family business in general. Who do you want to hear from? Send them our way, and we'll do our best to answer any questions you have, but make sure you tune in next time where we bring in another guest and we talk more about the automotive industry and all the great things going on within our business.